If you're like most drivers, you're looking for ways to save money on gasoline and those costly emissions repairs. Well, now school districts and drivers in Central Texas are testing a new device that promises to do just that.
It has a gross vehicle weight rating of 30,000 pounds, so it still takes some fuel to get it down the road.
But pump prices aren't the only problem facing the Eanes Independent School District and drivers all across Central Texas.
That's the soot that, and particulate matter that comes through the engine and then deposits inside, and much of it blows out.
If we can reduce the emissions out the tailpipe, then we're helping everyone.
Now add a new addition to a couple of EISD buses that could address both problems.
But this is what we're talking about right here. That's all we're talking about. This is the Ecosystems fuel modifier.
What you're trying to do is reduce the emissions on your vehicle and increase your fuel economy and pass the emissions test, and this device will help you do all three of those.
We're seeing some copper screens that actually agitate your fuel.
And therefore you don't have that unburnt fuel in the cylinder, which ends up evaporating and becoming an emission out the tailpipe. This is a 14-year-old car, and I have every reason to believe if I pull in right now and do an emissions test, I'm going to pass.
It is amazing at the amount of black soot and chunks of black soot that blew out of the tailpipe immediately after this system was introduced. So it did clean up the engine right up the startup. And we drove it through the same test pattern again throughout the district, and the tailpipe emissions were considerably reduced.
Fuel reductions in his buses were minimal, but then he tested the device in his 12-year-old car.
I immediately noticed the improved responsiveness in the acceleration.
It's a benefit he wasn't expecting in a vehicle that had already been driven more than 200,000 miles.
So I was up to 60 in less than 10 seconds.
Now, the Eanes School District and the people in our story aren't the only ones testing this new device. There are some of the other school districts using this ecosystem you see on your screen there, and some cities are trying it out too. In Houston, they're even used on tugboats. This device is not EPA approved yet, but you can find out some test results at KXAN.com. We'll also test it on one of our own news vehicles tomorrow and tell you how much it's going to cost. Watch at KXAN News at 6 to see if it lives up to its promises.
What you're trying to do is reduce the emissions on your vehicle and increase your fuel economy and pass the emissions test, and this device will help you do all three of those.
Monday we showed you how local school districts and some Central Texas drivers put this device to the test and noticed improvements immediately, but we didn't want to just take their word for it.
The immediate thing we noticed is that there was increased power within the engine, and monitoring the fuel usage before and after, we have identified on the vehicles it's approximately 3 to 4 gallons miles to the gallons that have increased.
We had heard the testimonials, but we wanted to test it out for ourselves. So we drove in the 6-year-old 115,000-mile KXAN News unit in for an emissions test.
Basically, it says that your CO is within the limit and your CO percentage is in the limit.
The inspector didn't see much room for improvement.
Maybe. If you could put it at 0, maybe.
But our eco-fuel system installers did.
Matter of less than 5 to 10 miles, you'll see emissions improvement.
So we hit the road from the Arboretum area to North Lamar and back for a follow-up test. Turned out to be a welcome surprise for us and the inspector.
Actually, your high-speed results have dropped by 0.3% for your CO ratio. And then on your idling results, it dropped down 0.02%. So actually, it did bring it down some. Actually, I haven't seen anything do that before. Bring it down before like that. That's kind of weird.
Now, while we saw a difference immediately, we're told the biggest benefit to gas consumption and emissions from the engine increases with time. So we plan on retesting our truck in the coming weeks to keep you up to date on how this device is performing. The device is available with a 90-day money-back guarantee in a variety of sizes. The cost ranges from about $100 to $400 plus installation.